Welcome to Fanboy Films. If you're here, it's because you just saw The Late Night War Part 2, Jay Leno versus Conan O'Brien, or you're looking for it. It's in the links below. You might be asking yourself a couple of questions. What's a late night war? Why'd you start with Part 2 and not Part 1? Where is Part 1 anyways? And why are you shooting this on an iPad? These are all excellent questions. I would start by going back to about 1990. I was 14 or 15 years old, and this is the first time I was old enough to stay up late enough to watch Johnny Carson's monologue with my parents who used to watch it. They would probably watch the monologue at 11:30 to 11:45 and then go to bed because they had to work in the morning. I had to go to school. In the summer, I could probably stay up later and watch the whole thing, or David Letterman. So that's how I got familiar with late night television. At that time, Jay Leno had been Johnny's permanent guest host for a couple years. He would do one episode every week, and he would host for an entire week about every once a month. So I was very familiar with Jay, and I liked him too. On Fridays or during the summer, I could stay up later and watch Letterman at 12:30, 12:35, and I liked his show too, and it was a little different, so that was nice. I remember when Johnny Carson announced his retirement. I can't remember exactly when it was. Maybe it was on like Entertainment Tonight or one of the news channels mentioned it. I can't remember if he said it on his show, but all the guests would come on his show for the next year and keep talking about how this was the final run. And then Saturday Night Live started doing skits about it with Dana Carvey playing Johnny and kind of making fun of the whole event, I guess, or sort of Carson style. And then I remember when David Letterman appeared on Johnny's show and Johnny said, "How pissed off are you?" And we thought, why would he be pissed off? What is going on? The whole first late night war, I don't think we knew was happening until the TV movie The Late Shift came out, which sort of explained the behind the scenes that you really knew that there had been a war. So when the second war happened between Leno and Conan, it was something that sort of went, oh, this is what happened last time, except this time it was talked about a lot. You were sort of looking for more information on it. And of course, you didn't just have their own channel, NBC, where it was happening. You had Dave on CBS talking about it. You had Jimmy Kimmel on ABC talking about it. You had not just Entertainment Tonight, but Access Hollywood and Inside Edition and so many other entertainment news shows talking about it. So there was a lot more information about it. This is all my way of explaining why I started with Part 2 instead of Part 1, because Part 2 had many more clips of people talking about it. And Part 2 happened in 2010 when a lot of people were recording all these shows on their DVRs and uploading them to YouTube, which was already a thing. When the first war happened, people were recording these maybe on their VCRs and then holding on to them for 20 years for YouTube to be invented and then uploading them. So it's a lot harder to find information on Part 1, although it's becoming easier several years down the line now. When the Leno Conan thing happened, there was a few things that I specifically remember. I remember Jay going on TV and announcing that he was going to step down in 5 years, which seemed like an odd choice or like an odd amount of time. And then, of course, when the 5 years came, we were all kind of wondering, how is this going to go? And hey, does anybody remember 5 years ago that he said this? And are they still going to remember that and follow through? And they did. And then, of course, we thought, what's going to happen to Jay? And then they announced, I believe before Conan even took over the Tonight Show, they announced that Jay was going to host the 10 o'clock show before him. And we kind of thought, that's interesting. Why would they get rid of Jay if they wanted to keep Jay? And all of a sudden it seemed like it might get messy, and then of course it all got messy. One of the things I specifically remember was Lopez. I used to watch a little bit of Lopez Tonight, not a lot. I was aware of it, and I remember, I think probably because the Conan-Leno war started happening, I started watching more of the late night shows, seeing what their comment was going to be on it. So I remember Lopez saying, "I'm not going nowhere. I'm same time slot, same channel." And then I remembered that Conan went to TBS eventually, and then I was like, oh, hey, remember when Lopez said he wasn't going to go anywhere? And then he did. I thought all these things I remembered, and thought this would make a good video. I started, I think it was around 2012 when I started collecting clips on YouTube to tell the story, because it was fairly current, and I thought there would be stuff I could find, but I think I sort of wasn't finding as much as I thought I needed to make a whole video. And for many other reasons, life got in the way. I put that project aside for a while, and I think it was around 2017 when I picked it back up. And at that point, I was able to find a lot more clips to fill in the blanks. As far as the editing of this, it really had a beginning and an end. It had Leno saying, I'm going to hand the show off in 5 years. And then the ending, the original ending, as I said in my other debrief, was Norm Macdonald saying, congratulations, Conan, on getting the Tonight Show, and that's something they can never take away from you. And I thought, how ironic, what a funny ending. So I had a beginning and ending, and then I thought I would just link together as many clips as I could find in the middle, and I assumed I was going to have to link it all together with some kind of narration. But I found I had so many clips that kind of just linked one off of the other that I didn't really need to narrate, and I didn't want to put my own opinion into it. But in hindsight now, and a lot of people have mentioned on my channel that there was a lot more going on behind the scenes that maybe I didn't reflect very well in that video, because this was not a full documentary. This was just me in my early days of YouTube just finding a bunch of stuff out there and thinking, wouldn't it be nice to see it all in one video? That's really all I was trying to do, is collect what was out there. I wasn't trying to sort of invent anything or research or whatever. And in my more recent videos, I have done more research, like on the Joan Rivers versus Johnny Carson one. So I think at some point I'm going to have to do a redo of Leno Conan to fill in some of these missing bits and pieces. So, and I found more clips since I finished the video that I thought that would have been great if that was in there. Because the video, as I cut it, is very anti-Leno, which was not my intention. That seemed to be what the feeling of all the people in the press was, which I think is kind of natural, not because Leno is bad, but because he's the winner. So he doesn't really have to defend himself. All the other people, you know, you could sort of say, oh, poor Conan, because Conan lost, even though he ended up with millions of dollars in another TV show. So he didn't really lose anything. But he lost the war, so there's a lot of sympathy for him, and you don't have to have sympathy for Leno because he didn't lose. He won. He got everything. So I think that's kind of why the opinion went that way. But I have found some opinions sort of in his favor that I didn't find back then. So I guess that's all I got for Late Night War Part 2. One of these days there will be a Part 1. And there will probably be a lot of other things between here and then. So that's all for this time. See you next time.